Welcome back with a smiling face. Important note before starting, if you are a fan of audio stories, then our Patreon account is the best platform for you. Join us on Patreon for the best audiobooks ever. Redeeming Himself. Episode 7. Chapter 46 to 54. Aelia. After Dr. Ronald left, I went back to the kitchen to help Amy with lunch. When I walked in, she and Abi had a batch of cookie dough they were rolling out together. Abi was making herself a mess but clearly having fun. The new helpers were busy prepping lunch. "What was that about?" she asked as I walked over. "Nothing really. Just some questions about my condition," I said. I did not want to broadcast my lack of wolf to the pack members currently running around the inn. Amy nodded her head. "How can I help?" "Well, I think everything is pretty much covered in here. Maybe Lemon could use help up front." I shook my head. "Nope, she is all set right now." "Then go get some sleep. You look awful." "I'll send a plate of food back later." I sighed. "Okay. I guess. Let me just run up and check something at the desk, and I will take a break." She nodded at me. I went up to the front to double-check that Lemon had everything under control. When I walked out front, I saw Cole standing at the desk and couldn't miss Lemon's desperate flirting. Rolling my eyes, I walked over to them. "Well, good afternoon, little flower," Cole said with a large smile as he noticed me. Lemon shot me a dangerous look. "Good afternoon, Cole. Is there something I can help you with?" I asked nicely. "Wait, you know him?" Lemon said, completely ignoring the fact that she was at work. "Not really, kind of. We both started at the same time." Cole chuckled. Then continued, "Not really, but Miss Aelia over here has been a wonderful help since my check-in." "Well, is there anything I can do for you before I take off for the day?" I asked, looking between him and Lemon. "Oh no, I think Miss Lemon has me all covered." "Taking off for the day?" he said curiously. "Yeah. I am going to head home for now." "No chance that you might want to have a cup of coffee with me?" he asked with a smirk. "I don't think that is such a good idea," came another voice from behind Cole. He turned to reveal John standing there with a dead look in his eyes. For a split second, I thought Cole's eyes flashed black. "Okay, Lemon, if you have everything handled, I am just going to." I trailed off, backing away from the desk. I left John and Cole in whatever strange standoff they were having. Did they know each other? How could they, though? I went out the back door and headed to my little apartment. I pulled my sweater around me tighter as I walked through the yard. It was getting colder every day. "Miss Lee, wait," someone shouted behind me. I turned around to see John running toward me. "Hi, John. How are you?" I asked him. I rubbed my hands up and down my arms for warmth as the wind blew around us. "You left me hanging yesterday. I was just checking that you were okay." "Oh, yeah. It was an old friend. Nothing to worry about." "You never really talk about many friends, Miss League." I laughed nervously. "I guess I don't." "Well, was there anything else?" "It is a bit chilly out," I trailed off. "Just one more thing. How well do you know that guy from the lobby?" he said with a stern look in his eyes. Worry took over me. "I don't. He just checked in a couple of days ago, and I have helped him a few times, but I don't know him." John's concern was confusing. "Right. Okay. Well, I will see you later," he said and turned around to walk away. I shrugged off his odd question and went to my apartment. I decided it was time to pull my space heater out as I entered my cold apartment. It didn't have a great heating system, so I spent a lot of time in the winter up at the inn. I pulled it out of my closet, and within a couple of minutes, warm air was blasting from it. I stood next to it warming my hands. Once I had warmed up a bit, I went to my kitchenette and started the tea kettle. Right after I poured my tea, my cell phone dinged. I went over to where I had left it on my desk to see who it was. It was a message from Liam. I sighed heavily. With everything that Lily had told me, I could not ignore him forever. But I was not ready to face him. I was not sure I would ever be prepared to face him and what happened. A part of me knew it wasn't entirely his fault, but it doesn't change what happened. I opened the message and read. Liam, Aelia, we need to talk. I can never tell you enough how sorry I am, but it is very important that we speak. Can I come see you? Well, he was not yelling or growling at me. I guess that was a step in the right direction. I sipped my tea as I contemplated returning his message. Could I face him? A knock at my door broke me from my thoughts. I sure was popular lately. Walking to the door, I called, "Who is it?" No one answered as I opened the door. There was no one outside, that was odd. I looked around for a sign of anyone near my apartment but saw nothing. A chill swept over me. I turned to go back inside and close the door when something struck me in the back of the head. I fell to the ground as blackness swept over me. Liam. I waited an hour for a reply to my message before calling her phone. I had a headache which was not helping the whole situation. There was no answer. It rang until it went to voicemail. I hung up and tried again 5 minutes later. Still no answer. Aelia, we really need to talk. I know you probably want to pretend I don't exist right now, and I deserve it. But I need to see you. I am coming to the inn, I said into her voicemail. I could not put this off much longer. I knew that this hunter would be making a move soon. They had teased and taunted me for far too long. Aelia was practically alone and unguarded. This hunter would be an it not to go after her now. I got up from my desk. I needed to change, check with Damien and Gwen, then I could go to her. I went up to my room, grabbing a quick shower and a fresh pair of clothes. Grabbing a jacket along with my keys, wallet, and phone, I left the room and headed to Damien's office. I knocked on his door when I arrived. "Yeah?" I heard his voice call. "It's me," I said as I opened the door. He gave me a curt nod. "I am going over to the human town to speak with Aelia. I will try and bring her here so she can be protected." "Good. I have a couple of plans on luring the hunter out. Let me hear them. You won't like any of them, and they all differ depending on the situation with Aelia. We can discuss this when she has made a decision." I nodded my head in understanding. "We will not be putting her life in danger, Damien. It already was the moment you rejected her, Liam." I turned to walk out of his office. I knew we would be okay, but for right now, he was angry with me, and I needed to let him be. I left his office and headed toward the small clinic off the pack house. I know Gwen was moved there to recover now that her major injuries were taken care of. Walking in, the receptionist smiled warmly at me. "I am here to see Gwyneth Hale," I said shortly. She nodded and stood up to lead me to a room. As I entered, I saw Gwen sitting up in bed. One of her arms was in a sling, and a leg was in a cast. Her face had some bruising and cuts that now looked red and puffy, as if they were almost healed. She was scrolling through her phone, but otherwise, she looked fine. I cleared my throat. Her eyes shot to me, giving me a dangerous look. "Don't give me your attitude, Gwen," I started. "I almost died, Liam." "All because of that stupid little girl," she whined. I growled. "You will not speak like that about her, Gwen. She is your future Luna, and you will show her respect. Let's not forget about the circumstances leading you to be where you were when you were attacked." She pouted, looking away from me. "We both know an attempt to hurt your Luna is punishable by death or expulsion from the pack. She isn't my Luna. You are not mated, and she has not been accepted by the pack." Once again, I growled at her disrespect. "It does not matter. She is my mate and will be Luna." I paused, collecting myself. "I will be nice this once. Your injuries are punishment enough for your actions, seeing as you caused no harm, and Aelia is unaware of your attempt. But heed my warning, Gwen, you will not lay a finger on Aelia Simmons. You will not harm her in any way. Gwen is no concern of yours, but she will be Luna of this pack, and you will respect her as such. Or you can leave." I stared into her eyes with a grim look on my face. I wanted her to know I was serious. "But Liam, we should be mates." "No!" I roared. "We have been over this, Gwen. We are not now and never will be mates. I love Aelia, and nothing will change that. You need to move on, Gwen." With that, I turned around and stalked from the room. She has been warned and will receive no other warning. As I walked towards the clinic's entrance, Declan came through the doors. He stopped as he saw me. "Liam, do you have a moment?" he asked, catching my eye. I nodded. I walked out the front doors and stood to the side of the entrance to give us a bit of privacy. "How can I help you, Declan?" I asked in a flat tone. "I want to apologize to you. I was wrong this morning. I was unaware of my daughter's intent and blamed you for her mistakes," he said solemnly. I knew it was not easy for him to apologize to me like this. "It is fine. I am sorry that she got in the middle of my mess. It was never my intent for anyone to get hurt." He nodded. "Once she is recovered, her mother and I will be sending her to her mother's family outside pack life. I have failed my daughter in her upbringing, and I think some new circumstances might change things. Do whatever you see fit. She will receive no further punishment from me. But she has been warned never to hurt my mate or attempt to again. I am sure you can understand the severity of her actions." He nodded. I turned to walk away. "Liam," he said, and I stopped but didn't turn to face him. "There are things you should know about your mate, and I don't think your father should be the one to tell you. I never approved of how he handled her situation but could not do anything as beta. You are doing a good job as alpha despite your father's influence. My wife and I will accept her as our Luna. If you need help with anything, please call." "Thanks, Mr. Hale," I said and walked away. I wanted to know what he had to say about Aelia and her parents, but right now, going to her and convincing her to come back was more important. Chapter 47. When I arrived at the inn, I decided it would be best to go inside and ask for her since she was not replying to my message or calls. She could be running around the inn working and not have her phone with her. I parked in the lot and made my way inside to the front desk. That flirty girl with the fruit name was at the desk. I groaned inwardly, not wanting to deal with shenanigans today. "Hello. Welcome to the Blue Moon Inn. Are you here for dinner today or checking in?" she chirped. "Actually, I am looking for someone. Is Aelia around?" I asked as patiently as I could. She rolled her eyes. "She went home." "I can call her if you like," she said, obviously annoyed. Did Aelia have that many people asking for her? Jealousy flamed in my gut. That would be great. I would be happy to wait, I smiled at her. She gave me a fake smile back and grabbed the phone. She held the receiver to her face for a minute before looking up at me. Well, she isn't answering. Honestly, that isn't like her. She will wake up from a dead sleep to answer the phone if we call. What does that mean? I asked, worried. Well, she could have gone out, but she usually lets Amy or me know. Let us know what, Lemon? Amy said as she walked out of the kitchen. Oh, it's you, she said, catching sight of me. Aelia isn't answering the phone. I thought she went back to her apartment after that weird little spat with the cute customer and John, Lemon told her. I told her to go get some sleep. She looked like a zombie this morning, and we had everything covered around here. But that was a couple of hours ago now. I was going to send her some food back here soon, Amy said with concern. She looked at the other girl with worry. Try her again. The other girl dialed Azalea's number again, and still no answer. I am sorry. She must not be here right now. It isn't normal, but she probably went out for something, she said with worry in her voice. Amy looked at me with some weird emotion that I could not pinpoint. What was her problem now? You should just go anyway. I don't think she wants you around, she said with malice. Well, that is for Aelia to decide. Not you, I said dangerously quiet. She was a human and didn't know our ways, but she was piecing me off now. This time, I think I know what's best for her. You should go. She doesn't need all this, she said, crossing her arms. You shouldn't meddle in matters you can't even begin to understand, I told her darkly and turned to leave. I threw the front door open only to come face to face with John. If things couldn't get any better. I stormed past him, knocking into him slightly. Lose something, wolf boy, he said almost too quietly. I stopped dead in my tracks. Turning around, I glared at him. What did you say? I growled. Nothing, he said with a smirk. I lunged at him, grabbing him by the throat and holding him up against the house. He struggled against my grip. If you know where she is, you better spill now, I threatened. He strained against my grip, so I loosened it just enough so he could speak. You should take better care of your things, he gasped. I balled my fist and threw it into his stomach before dropping him to the ground. He let out a moan as he crumpled on the ground. I ran around the inn and headed to her front door. When I got there, I pounded on the door, only for it to swing open on its own. I was blasted with warm air and the smell of Aelia mixed with blood. Looking down, there was a broken mug in a puddle of tea. Not far from it was a small pool of blood. My entire body went numb. I stepped inside her house, looking around. Aelia! I called. Aelia! Bending over, I touched the blood, trying to feel how warm it was, how fresh it was. It was cool and thick, meaning that it was hours old. Someone had hurt her hours ago. And my guess was they had taken her. Pain shot through my chest. Someone had my mate, and I had no idea who or where. I stood up, looking around the apartment for any clues. I saw a space heater near the bed that she must have just set up. I walked over to it to turn it off. Scanning the room, I saw a note with a flower on the bed. I grabbed it, ripping the envelope open. You almost wilted this pretty little flower. But now she is all mine. I warned you, Alpha. What will the big bad wolf do now? Rage washed over me. The hunter took her, and he was going to pay. Aelia. There was an awful ache resonating from the back of my head. Waking up slightly, I tried to remember falling asleep. I reached to feel the back of my head where the pounding was coming from. Touching it gingerly, I felt something dry and crusty matted in my hair. Opening my eyes, I realized I was not in my apartment, and I definitely wasn't at the inn. I was lying on a large soft bed in a cream-colored room. Looking around, I saw 2 doors, a table and chair, and a nightstand next to the bed. Everything was light-colored but cohesive. There were no windows in the room, just a single light hanging from the ceiling. Panic washed over me. Where was I? How did I get here? What is going on? I sat up slowly, my head still hurting. Someone must have hit me from behind. I tried to think back to the last thing I could remember. I was at home and had put the space heater on when there was a knock at the door. But there had been no one there when I answered. After that, I could not remember anything. Whoever is responsible for this must have been hiding when I opened the door. I stood up from the bed and cautiously went to the 2 doors. Twisting the handle on the first door, it turned surprisingly, and the door opened. Inside was a bathroom with a shower, toilet, and sink. There were a couple of towels folded neatly on the counter by the sink. I moved to the other door hoping this could be the exit. I tried turning the handle with no luck this time. This had to be the way out with no other doors or windows in here. I should have known it would be locked. You would never kidnap someone and forget to lock them in. I sat down on the bed, wrapping my arms around myself. I could not help but miss Liam at this moment. Some part of me knew that I was in this position because I ran away from him and refused to let Damien, or anyone else, stay to protect me. Realization hit me then, I have not been speaking to Liam, and he will have no clue that I am gone. Everyone at the inn thinks that I went to bed for the night and won't expect me until the morning. Who knows precisely how long it'll be until someone comes looking for me. Then how long until Liam or Damien find out and come to look for me? How long have I even been gone? Would they know where to even begin searching? My whole body started to shake in absolute fear. A tear slipped down my cheek. Liam, get every tracker we have here now. I also want additional support for every search party. Call Langston and ask him for help. I barked orders into the phone to Damien. Right away. Anything else? He responded. I knew he was not taking my tone to heart right now. Tell your dad we need to speak with him soon about Aelia. Whatever he has to say about her may help us find her. Sure. And Liam? Yeah. We will find her. He hung up the phone. I felt my heart constricting in my chest. Where was she? Who had her? She had to be terrified right now. We had no leads or clues as to the identity of this hunter. But we do, Gavin said in my head. Who? John. He knew mate was gone. I growled loudly and took off from Azalea's place. I ran to the front of the inn, determined to find that lowlife. I left him in a crumpled heap of the front porch, so I started there. As I thought, he was no longer sitting where I left him a few minutes ago. I entered the inn again, hoping he had come inside. Lemon and Amy stood at the front desk, talking in hushed tones. Clearing my throat, I got their attention. Ladies, I began. They looked at me. Have you seen that John guy? What is going on, Liam? Amy almost shouted. Where is Aelia? That is what I am trying to figure out. Where did John go? I shot back angrily. We don't know. We heard the commotion outside, and when we went outside, he was laughing like a crazy person, and you were nowhere to be found. He walked out to the parking lot saying something about getting the alpha's head. This was not good. John had to be the one who took her, and he came back here hoping I would show up so he could taunt me. Where did he go? Amy, I need to know. He got in his car and left. Where is Aelia? I think he took her. And I need to find her. Amy, you need to close the inn down for the rest of the day. No more lunch and dinner. Push guests to check out if you can. The old man walked out of what I assumed to be his office right then. I will handle things here. Go find that girl, boy. And don't you let no hunters hurt her. I nodded my head at him and exited the inn. I should have known from day one he was the hunter. I never liked the guy, and I let myself think he was just a simple human trying to take my girl. Until Damien and everyone else got here, I could not do much. They would need Azalea's scent, so I went back to her apartment to get some things. Chapter 48. Aelia. I don't know how long I was out, but I sat on the bed for a while. I sat with my legs pulled close to my chest and my head resting on my legs. I didn't want to admit it in my heart, but my whole body yearned for Liam. I do not know if I could forgive him completely, but he was the one I wanted coming to my rescue right now. There was a sound on the other side of the door. I could hear the lock click, and the door swung open slowly. My mouth dropped. John stood in the doorway holding a tray of food and a bag. He walked in and placed the food and bag on the table. John, what? I tried to find words. Was John responsible for this? How? Why? He chuckled. It's not entirely what you think, Miss Lee. I brought you some food. You should eat, he said in a dark tone. He never sounded less than friendly before now. Liam won't come for me. Taking me was useless, I said quietly. Don't be so sure, Miss Lee. Eat. And there are some clean clothes for you. He walked towards the door to exit the room. Wait, John. I said, trying to stop him. He turned his head to look at me over his shoulder. Why me? I thought we were friends, I said solemnly. He smirked. You don't even know who you are, do you? He said before leaving through the door. I jumped from the bed, launching myself at the door. I grabbed the handle, hoping to catch him off guard and pull the door open. I was not fast enough as the lock clicked as I desperately tried to yank it open. Sobs erupted from me. I fell to my knees in front of the door. I couldn't be sure exactly how long it had been since I was kidnapped. I refused to eat, only drinking small bits of water from the bathroom sink. John came in every so often bringing fresh food. He did not talk to me or pester me to eat. Sometimes he would dim the light if he thought I was asleep. I laid on the bed curled in a ball. When I was not sleeping, I laid there sobbing. It felt like I had been there for days. I felt like the longer time went on, the less likely it would be that Liam was coming to my rescue. He had to know I was gone by now, right? The door opened quietly. I lay still with my eyes closed, trying to control my sobs. Someone approached the bed behind me. I felt a large hand on my side. It gently rubbed me. I held completely still. Eat something, little flower, he whispered. I recognized the voice. Eat something, and I will explain everything. My eyes widened in realization. I turned my head to look over my shoulder, and sure enough, Cole was standing behind me. Cole. I croaked. Eat something, and when I come back, I will tell you everything, he said and left the room. I sat up, my head pounding a little. Looking at the table, I saw yet another fresh tray of food. If I ate something, I could get some answers, so what did I have to lose? I got up to sit at the small table. I felt weak, and my limbs were heavy. On the tray were a bottle of water and a bottle of juice, an apple, a small sandwich, and a bowl of macaroni and cheese. I opened the bottle of juice, taking a small sip. The cool sweetness coated my mouth, making me feel a bit better. I managed to eat about 3 bites of the sandwich and half the macaroni before I started to feel sick. I washed everything down with the water and juice, knowing that I was dehydrated by now. As if on cue, the door opened the moment I pushed the tray away from me. John stood in the doorway. "Good. Now you should go clean up, and I will take you to him," he said. He grabbed the tray and replaced it with a bag of clothes. "Everything you need to shower is in the bathroom. I'll be back in 30 minutes. With that, he left the room. Now that I had eaten, my headache had lessened. I knew it had been at least a couple of days since I showered or changed, so I did as I was told. Grabbing the bag of clothes, I went to the bathroom. Once I figured out how to turn on the shower, I washed quickly. I tenderly attended to the back of my head that was still sore from whatever I had been hit with. Getting out of the shower, I wrapped myself in a towel before grabbing the bag I was given. I opened the bag. Inside were a pair of leggings, a flowy top, some undergarments, a sweater, and some toiletries. Having no other choice than to put my other clothes back on, I dressed quickly and wrapped my hair up in the towel. I brushed my teeth and put some lotion on. Now that I was clean, I was feeling a little better. I let my now only damp hair down from the towel and brushed it out gently so that I didn't pull where the cut was healing. I pulled my long locks into a bun on my head and exited the bathroom. I sat on the bed, waiting for John or Cole to return. Liam. It had been 3 days since Aelia was taken, and we had no idea where she was. I was going out of my mind, and Gavin was more anxious than I was. I paced the floor of my office, thinking. Where could Aelia be? What was happening to her? I could feel her fear and sadness through our link, but I was not feeling any pain. I hoped that meant she was not being harmed. A knock came at the door. "What?" I yelled, turning to the door. Lily stood in the doorway with a stern look on her face. "Liam, Declan asked to speak to you. He said it can't wait any longer." "Fine," I said. I should have spoken with him days ago when Aelia was first taken, but I have been putting it off trying to search for my mate. The door opened all the way, and Declan came in, followed by Damien and Lily. I sat down at my desk, motioning for him to sit down. Declan and Lily sat down with Damien standing behind Lily. There was a tense silence before he began. "I don't know where Aelia was taken, but I do suspect I know who has her." "We already know who has her. That John guy who has been stalking her at the inn for more than a year now." I shot at him. "Don't be so sure. I think this hunter was only a means to an end," he replied calmly. "Means to what end? Who has her then?" I barked. Damien growled. "Damien, it is okay. If someone took Lily, you would be acting the same. Liam, I believe your cousin has Aelia." "My cousin? I don't have any cousins. One of my father's brothers died shortly after he became alpha, my uncle's mate was not capable of bearing children, and my mother's sister has never found her mate." "That is not entirely true," he said, still very calm. "Yes, your father's brother did die, but we don't know exactly when. And, you do not know the circumstances. Your uncle almost died trying to claim the title of Alpha from your father. You have a cousin that is about your age. He was born only a couple of months before you, he explained. I don't remember having a cousin, surely I would remember that, I interrupted. You probably haven't seen him since you were about 3 years old. At that time, your uncle and father started having issues. Your uncle was always jealous of your father. He did not think your father deserved the title of Alpha even though he was the firstborn. Arguably, your uncle showed much greater potential for the position growing up. He shifted early, he found his mate early, he was even stronger than your father for a while. But your father was firstborn, so he was given the title of Alpha. When you were about 5 years old, the animosity finally started coming to a head. Your uncle had spent less time at the pack house and training but was plotting against your father in secret. When your father found out, he put a stop to everything, but there was some fallout. I don't understand how this relates to Aelia, I said, confused. Aelia's parents were part of your uncle's plan. He had a small sect of werewolves following him and supporting his overthrow of your father. Some of these wolves came from other packs and integrated into ours. Aelia's father found his mate in a different pack. She was the daughter of the current Alpha in her pack. Her twin brother was to take the Alpha position, so she agreed to come to our pack to be with her mate. Wait a minute, Aelia is of Alpha blood. Yes, she is. And it makes sense that she would be the mate of an Alpha. Her family is said to have incredible power. Because her father was an avid supporter of your uncle, her mother never got to make many friends within the pack. Your uncle and his followers stuck together and were very secretive. Many of them also refrained from having pups so that they would have fewer weak spots to be exploited when it came time for their coup. But Aelia's mother was of Alpha blood, and that allowed her to become pregnant more easily. Aelia was born shortly after you and your cousin. Her father and your uncle agreed that their children would become Alpha and Luna when the time came. They can't do that. What were they going to do about their mates? I said, appalled. Who knows? This was an arranged marriage for strength and power. As you know, Aelia's parents died when your uncle tried to take the pack from your father. Because of the circumstances surrounding their death and no one in the pack being close with Aelia's parents except the other defectors, no one could take in Aelia. I tried desperately to find her guardians. We could not take her in. You know that my mate is human, and our pups were more than she could handle at the time. Your father and mother reluctantly took responsibility for her. We both know they were not happy about it. I think your father's greatest fear was that she would be your mate. So, what happened to my cousin and my uncle? Your uncle was hurt and ran away to become a rogue. I can only assume he took your cousin with him. Your uncle's mate was killed in the fallout, so I cannot imagine he survived long, Declan finished. So, you think my cousin has taken Aelia? He nodded his head. I think he is going to try to mate her, mark her, and take your Alpha title. I think he has taken her to draw you out and get you riled up before he proceeds. I looked at Damien with wide eyes. Get my uncle now. I linked him. Damien immediately left the room, earning a confused look from his father and Lily. Thank you, Declan. I appreciate your candor. There is something I need to attend to immediately. If you could excuse us, I said, standing and motioning for the door. Lily, can you stay for a moment? Declan stood to leave. Your father misplaced his malice towards his brother for years at that girl. But do try to understand, he never wanted to fight his brother. With that, he left my office. As soon as the door shut, Lily piped up. Liam, what will happen if another wolf mates her before you have marked her? You already have a permanent link. I don't know. Damien is getting my uncle now. I will have to tell him what happened. We have to get to Aelia before he can mark her. Chapter 49. Aelia. After what felt like forever, I heard the lock on the door clicking, and the door swung open. I stood from the bed and looked at John in the doorway. He motioned for me to follow him, so I did. We walked silently through a hallway and down some stairs. There was a soft rug under my feet that shielded me against the cold, hardwood floors. We went down 2 flights of stairs when John led me to an office. He knocked twice on the door, and we heard come in from the other side. He opened the door and motioned for me to go in. Entering the office, I saw Cole seated at a desk. To the side of the room, there was a couch with a small coffee table. There were shelves holding files along another wall. It looked like an Alpha's office. "Please sit, Aelia. We have things to talk about," Cole said, staring at me. I shuffled over to one of the chairs in front of his desk and sat down. I fidgeted nervously in the chair, pulling my sleeves down over my hands. After a moment of silence, I quietly asked, "Why am I here?" He smiled. "Well, you're my mate, of course." I looked up at him, confused. "No, I'm not," I said. "Ah, little flower, but you are. The moon goddess did not decide this but our parents. You were promised to me, you see." My mouth dropped open. "My parents promised me? That's impossible," I whispered. "You do not even know the circumstances in which you came to be a member of the Blood Eclipse Pack, do you? Do you know who your mother is?" I just stared at him. "My parents died 15 years ago after plotting against the Alpha. Their crimes were punishable by death. They left me alone in this world, unloved and unwanted. Your mother is the true Alpha of the White Moon Pack. She found her mate shortly after she was told that her twin brother, who happened to be born second, was to be given the title of Alpha over her. Her mate, your father, was my father's best and most trusted friend. Your mother was heartbroken and upset with her family at the time, so she came to the Blood Eclipse Pack with her mate. But what does any of that have to do with me? SHHH. You will understand everything in time," he said. He cleared his throat and continued. "My father is Alpha Robert's younger brother. Although he is younger, he should have been Alpha. You see, my father was stronger, faster, and smarter than Alpha Robert. He would have been a powerful leader. He even found his mate early, that is how special he was. I was born shortly before your precious mate, Liam, as my father wanted an heir right away to ensure his lineage could retain the Alpha title once he took it. And conveniently, your mother fell pregnant not long after mine. Our fathers thought it would be in our best interest to merge our bloodlines, as you were bound to be an exceptional wolf." "What do you mean exceptional? You know nothing of the White Moon Pack?" he asked. I shook my head. "The White Moon Wolves are known to have special abilities. Alphas and their kin are said to have more than one of these special abilities. I am sure you can understand why our fathers wanted us to be mated, one day taking over as Alpha and Luna of the Blood Eclipse." Fear crept up my spine. He had to have the wrong person. There was no way I was special. I did not even have access to my wolf. I was not much more than a weak human. What would he do to me when he realized I have no special abilities? He continued. "Do not misunderstand me, I know you cannot shift and have not unlocked any of your abilities. But I know they are there. And I will unlock them, that I can promise you, little flower. Back to my story. So your mother came to Blood Eclipse to be with her mate. My father intended to make your father his beta, of course, if he could take down Alpha Robert. My father became more obsessed with taking the Alpha title as time went on. It became his sole focus in life. So, they planned. For years, they planned a coup, the perfect plan to defeat the Alpha and anyone else who would stand in his way. But your pesky mother got in the way. She went to Robert's beta, Declan, and warned him that something was going to happen. She tipped him off just enough that our parents were thwarted. Your mother was hurt, but she could not hang on when your father died, and she too passed away. My father was injured but managed to get away with me. You were left to deal with the aftermath. My mind was reeling. My mother is of some special Alpha bloodline, my father sided with a crazy man. My mother tried to stop their attempts and still died. Cole stood up and walked around the desk, he kneeled in front of me. We were promised to each other since birth, my little flower. And I am going to save you from everything the pack made you face, he said, reaching up to stroke my cheek. I don't understand. I said quietly. What don't you understand? He asked gently. I looked into his blue eyes that reminded me so much of Liam. I could feel tears threatening to spill over my lashes as I yearned for Liam to rescue me. Whatever all this was, I didn't want to be a part of it. If I was so special and promised to you, why didn't you take me sooner? Why did I suffer for 12 years in that pack house? I asked quietly, not trusting my voice. He sighed. I didn't know you survived at first. I didn't know until your 16th birthday. I snuck into the pack territory to find you. I watched you for a few days, and I was so angry when I found out how you were treated. I saw you through your window on your birthday. I could see your tears as you watched the moon. I couldn't hear you, but your lips were moving like you were singing yourself happy birthday. I was angry. I left to devise a way to get you out. I planned to get you before your 17th birthday. But when I came back, there was this group of girls talking about how Liam, future Alpha, kicked you out of the pack. I thought they made you a rogue. It took me months to find that you were in that little human town. Once I knew you were safe and away from them, I waited. I sent the hunter to keep an eye on you. So, John. Yes. He is a hunter, and he was sent by me to watch over you. We had a mutual interest, you could say, he said. Liam, I concluded. Yes. I had planned to take over my rightful place as Alpha of the pack. Then we learned that he is your fated mate. Tears began to flow. You don't understand. You have to be wrong. I am not special. I cannot shift, I can't speak to my wolf. There is nothing special about me, you have the wrong person. I cried. Cole pulled me to his chest, hugging me tightly. No, little flower. You are exceptional. And I will show you. I could never hurt you like he did. My body stiffened immediately at his words. How did he know? Cole pulled away from me. Oh yes, I know how he tried to hurt you. I could never do that to you. He caressed my cheek as he looked into my eyes. His expression was sincere. Nothing about his behavior was threatening. It seemed like he cared, like he really had waited for me his whole life as if I was his true mate. Cole, I'm not your mate. I am Liam's mate. I am sorry, I said quietly. I closed my eyes and turned my head away from him. All of this was too much and made me miss Liam even if I had not forgiven him. Please just let me go. I said again in a whisper. Cole stood up. I could tell he was starting to get angry. I am sorry, but I cannot do that. He rejected you, then hurt you, Aelia. I will not allow him to touch what is mine. Cole walked around his desk. That is enough for now. Join me for dinner later, little flower, he said. His office door swung open. I stood up, knowing that this was my indication to leave. John was standing in the doorway apparently ready to escort me to my room. I silently walked behind John back through the house. I tried to take note of my surroundings, but everything looked identical to each other. We arrived back at my room, and John opened the door. I entered while he closed the door behind me and locked it. Sadness and helplessness washed over me all at once. Cole was not going to let me go, and he was going to hurt Liam. There was absolutely nothing I could do. I curled up into a ball on the bed. Silent sobs racked my body until I finally fell into a fitful sleep. Liam. My uncle arrived at my office. Lily and I sat waiting for him and Damien. I stood as he entered. What is so important that you needed me immediately? Is everything okay? He asked worriedly. I guess Damien did not fill him in. I need to know what will happen if another wolf marks my mate, I said as calmly as I could. He looked around with a confused expression on his face at the three of us. Many things can happen. Why would someone mark Aelia? Where is she? She was taken. He nodded his head. I think I understand. Well, since you have not mated with Aelia yet, tell him, Lily interrupted. He gave her a questionable look. My uncle turned to face me. Tell me what exactly? Liam, you did resist her heat, correct? I sighed. Not exactly. There was a complication during her heat. What sort of complication? It took me by surprise. We were arguing, and her heat came. Gavin took over and mated with Aelia, I said, hanging my head. Against her will, Damien said quietly. My uncle looked at us all in turn. Well, that makes things more complicated, I presume. I would say it is uncommon for wolves to mate and not be marked quickly after. As for another wolf mating her, it will hurt. She will feel physical pain for another wolf touching her now that you two have mated. You will also feel the pain she feels. If she is marked, it would probably sever the mate bond. I only remember reading of a few similar instances. You would feel pain similar to that of rejection. The pain inflicted upon Aelia will be much worse if she is marked. There was even a case where the marked she-wolf felt residual pain until she could no longer take it. Until she could no longer take it. What does that mean? Asked Lily. She took her own life. She was marked by a man who was not her mate and claimed the pain from the mark to be unbearable. Eventually, she took her life, he explained. Lily gasped, covering her mouth with her hands. I don't think your cousin will do anything until he has taken care of you, Liam, my uncle continued. Wait, you know. Although I had no interest in the affairs of running the pack, I was not naive to my brother's quarrel. And I suspected Cole had survived, he replied calmly. So, he is after my pack, and he already has my mate. Are you sure he won't hurt her until he kills me? I cannot be 100% certain, but I would think not. Young Cole was absolutely obsessed with Aelia when they were young. He treated her like a princess. I hazard to say they were each other's only friends due to their parents' dealings. Cole has had many opportunities to harm Aelia if I understand this situation correctly. He has yet to. He has also had her for how long now? 3 days, Damien told him. He has yet to harm in 3 days, so we know. He will wait until he eliminates you before he attempts to mark Aelia. I believe he will refrain from hurting her more than he must to achieve his goals. We all sat in silence, contemplating what my uncle had said. Lily stood up and walked right in Damien's arms, burying her face in his chest. I knew she was worried for Aelia. My uncle stood and took his leave. I sat down in my chair. Suddenly I felt a wave of despair come over me. Hopelessness started to settle in. This had to be Aelia. We have to find her, I whispered. Chapter 50. Aelia. I felt a hand on my shoulder, shaking me awake. I looked around, remembering where I was. John was standing over me. Wake up, Miss Lee. You should change for dinner. He sent up some clothes, said John. He left me alone once again. Not thinking I had much of a choice at this point, I got up and grabbed the bag of clothes that John left on the table. I went to the bathroom to change. Inside the bag was a green dress with short sleeves and some short heels. It was pretty and fit well, but I was too numb to care. I let my hair down, finger combing it into gentle curls down my back. I brushed my teeth before going back into the bedroom. I sat on the bed with my hands on my lap. I absent-mindedly rubbed at the remaining bruise marks still on my wrists. A few minutes later, there was a knock at the door. I looked up, expecting it to open, but it did not. Another knock sounded. "See, come in," I said hesitantly. The door opened, and Cole stood there with a smile on his face. He looked so much like Liam it almost hurt. Every time I looked at him, my heart ached for Liam. "You look beautiful," he said. "Thanks," I whispered. "Are you ready?" he asked. I nodded my head. He held out his hand, but I didn't take it. I stood up from the bed and stepped toward him. "Okay, let's go," he said, dropping his hand. I followed him out of the room. We went back downstairs to a small dining room instead of his office. Cole led me to a chair, pulling it out for me like a perfect gentleman. I sat down, keeping my eyes down and not daring to look at him. I sat on the corner, and Cole sat on the other side. Someone came out, placing salads before us. I could feel his eyes on me. "Eat, little flower," he said quietly. I made no move to begin eating. I stared down into my lap as he ate next to me. What felt like an eternity later, the salad plates were taken away, and another plate of food was set down. I continued to stare at my hands in my lap. This was excruciating, and every minute that passed made me want Liam more. Cole's chair scraped against the wood flooring. I felt his hand under my chin, lifting my face to his. He knelt on the floor next to me. His eyes bore into mine with concern flooding his blue orbs. His other hand gently grasped my hand, and he began rubbing his thumb softly over the bruising on my wrist. "Please eat something. We do not have to talk. Just please eat for me," he pleaded. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I considered my options for a moment. He was not acting aggressive or hostile towards me in any way. It seemed as if, for the time being, he was simply trying to have a meal with me. For now, I would play my part. I nodded my head a fraction. His face lit up with a handsome smile. "That's my girl," he said quietly. He got back into his chair and looked at me expectantly, waiting for me to take a bite. I looked down at the plate in front of me. There was chicken and some roasted vegetables. I hesitantly picked up my fork. Cole watched me diligently. I grabbed a small piece of broccoli and brought it to my mouth. He finally relaxed once I put it in my mouth and began to chew. The meal continued in much of the same way. I would take a small bite here and there while Cole sat quietly watching me eat. Once he finished his plate, I put my utensils down, signaling that I was also finished. "That is all you will eat, little flower," he asked in a somber tone. I nodded my head. He sighed. I will take you back to your room, come, he said, standing up and offering me his hand. I still did not take it but stood up to follow him. When we arrived at my room, he opened the door and stepped aside to let me in. I walked inside, stopping in front of the bed. I felt him lingering in the doorway but did not turn around to address him. His large frame approached me from behind. There are some nightclothes in the bathroom for you. I will be out in the morning but would be ecstatic if you would join me for lunch tomorrow, he said steadily. I stood completely still, making no indication that I would or would not eat lunch with him. I just wanted him to go. I got my wish as he left the room, locking the door behind him. I slipped my feet out of the heels and climbed up onto the bed. This time I got under the large, soft comforter. I felt cold and tired. My body missed Liam, and I felt this slight anxious energy that made me even more tired. I curled up in a ball under the blanket and let the darkness take me away. Liam. Sleep was next to impossible. I felt this ache in my chest that was growing all the time. He may not be hurting Aelia, but she was far from okay. I needed to get to her. Even if she did not want me, I needed her safe. I stood on the back patio in the wee hours of the morning. I held a cup of coffee in my hand. It was about the only thing I had consumed for days now. I looked out over the woods behind the pack house, waiting for the sun to crest the trees. You need to sleep, Liam. What will you do if we find her and you're too exhausted to do anything? Lily linked me. I could feel her presence behind me. I let her down, I said quietly. I will sleep when I know she is safe. She sighed behind me. We got something, she said quietly. I turned around quickly. Why didn't you start with that? I asked frantically. What is it? She held up a small envelope addressed to me. I took it from her and opened it quickly. Inside was a note and a Polaroid photo. I looked at the picture first. My breath hitched. The photo was of a girl lying on a large bed. She was curled up, holding herself. Her fiery locks were a wild mess around her. The photo was clear enough to see some barely visible bruises around her wrists. I swallowed. Aelia, her name erupted from my lips in a strangled sob. I opened the note and read. You did not take care of this little flower. Now she will be mine. I will be waiting, Alpha. At the bottom of the note was a set of coordinates. I looked up at Lily. She nodded her head. Yes, Liam. We think he has told you exactly where they are. And if this picture is recent enough, she is okay. She looked at me warily. Damien sent a pair of wolves to scout the area. We won't know much until they return. I nodded my head, barely registering what she was saying. My mind was wholly fixated on the photo. Mate, Gavin whined in my head. No. You do not get to do that. I said to him icily. He growled in response. No, Gavin. You are the entire reason she was able to be taken. You did this, you hurt her worse than anyone ever has. She ran from us, and it made her vulnerable. He did not deserve pity at this moment. He took Azalea's choice away as she begged him to stop. I did what you wouldn't, he feebly tried to argue. I would have. I wanted to the moment I saw her again. But it could not be like that. Now she is in the hands of someone trying to take my pack. Don't you see what you did? He remained quiet for a minute. I played the painful images of Aelia underneath us that night in the lake house through my mind, forcing him to watch what he did. Gavin whimpered. I didn't want to hurt Mate, he whined. You did. She was not ready for anything like that. Her mating should have been slow and sweet. We should have taken care of her. You are right. I failed, mate, he admitted finally. Lily was waving her hands in front of me, trying to get my attention. Gavin retreated in my mind once again. He was probably off to metaphorically lick his wounds now that he was accepting this was all his fault. I snapped my eyes to Lily. Sorry, I said. Damien walked outside at that moment. I looked over at him. There are scouts sent to check out the area around the coordinates in the note. They left about 20 minutes ago, he said. I nodded my head. Liam, you need to go get some sleep. We won't know anything for hours still. I looked at my best friend and Beta. He was looking almost as rough as I was. I didn't realize how hard he had been working to help me find Aelia, a girl he held no loyalty toward until he found out she was my mate. He handed me a small bottle. I spoke with your uncle. He gave me these to give to you. They are a light sedative just to help you fall asleep. I know asking you to take them willingly is probably not the best choice, but I won't force you. Damien, get the Delta to watch over things and wait for the scout returns. You and Lily should also go rest, I said, taking the bottle from him. I will take these and sleep as well. I need your help if I am going to get my mate back, I finished. He nodded his head and looked at Lily. She gave him a small warm smile, moving into his embrace. They turned around to go back inside. And Damien, I started. He paused but did not turn around. I really am sorry I let this all happen. I will never hurt her or allow Gavin to hurt her ever again. He stood there for a moment. Finally, he linked me, probably unable to voice what he had to say. Your wolf's actions were a punishable offense. If you ever hurt her again, Liam, I will not hesitate to act. Whether or not she is my Luna, she did not deserve that. I expect nothing less. With that, he and Lily disappeared into the house. I sighed, realizing not only had I hurt Aelia, but I had also put my best friend in a position where his morals were compromised. We had dealt with wolves forcibly mating in the past, although not frequently. Punishments were always severe. I got a punch to the face and a cold shoulder. I got off far too easily. I looked at the photo again. My poor little mate needed me. Hang in there just a little longer, Aelia. I am coming, baby, I whispered to myself. Chapter 51. Aelia. The next morning, someone came in and left a tray of breakfast food on the table with some fresh clothes. I did not move from the bed. My body felt weak and heavy with sadness. I laid there, drifting in and out of fitful sleep for what felt like ever. Later, the door opened once again. Someone came in and closed the door behind them. I made no move to acknowledge them. I kept my eyes closed, hoping they would leave. I felt arms wrapping around me, lifting me from the bed a moment later. I opened my eyes to see Cole picking me up and holding me to his chest. He sat on the bed, leaning his back against the headboard. My skin erupted in an uncomfortable prickling sensation where he held me. Little flower, you do not look well. You didn't eat any breakfast, he said quietly. He held me close to him and rubbed circles on my back. It would have been comforting if the prickling sensation were not trailing along where his fingers touched me. We sat there like that for a while. The longer we sat, the worse the sensation of Cole's touch felt on my skin. Without prompt, the door to my room swung open. I opened my eyes a fraction to see if I could get a look at who the new visitor was. 2 pairs of footsteps padded across the wood floor. If you wish me to look at her, you will need to put her down, a bored, monotonous voice said. Cole shifted himself off the bed, placing me back down but sitting against the headboard where he was just it. He looked into my eyes as I looked up at him. John and another male stood behind him. Little Flower, please tell Dr. Julian what is bothering you. He will see that you feel better, Cole said softly to me. He stood up and made way for the doctor to approach me. My eyes grew wide with the three of them watching me. You two can go now, the doctor said. I doubt I will get much out of her with such an audience. Cole gave me one last sad look before exiting the room, John following him. I am going to check your temperature now, Aelia, he told me before pulling out a thermometer. He pointed it at my forehead. It beeped, and he nodded his head at the reading. I need to ask you some questions. Will you answer me honestly? He asked. I nodded hesitantly. Do you feel tired? I nodded. Does your body feel weak or heavy? Again, I nodded. Are you in pain? I thought for a moment. There was a dull ache in my chest reminiscent of my years without Liam, but I felt no other pain. Can you describe it? He said before I could give him an answer. I simply placed my hand over my heart. He nodded his head in understanding. Does it hurt or feel uncomfortable when Alpha Cole touches you? Like just now? I nodded again. He looked down at my wrists. How did this happen? I shook my head. I didn't care if he was a doctor. I did not wish to relieve that while being held against my will. Okay, he said. He took out a small notebook from his pocket and took a few notes. Are you having trouble sleeping? He asked, looking up from his writing. I nodded again. Okay. I am going to give you something to make you sleep easier. It should allow you to rest peacefully until about dinner time, he said casually. My eyes grew wide again, and I shook my head, holding up my hands. He sighed. Cole came back into the room. He went to the other side of the bed. Alpha, please hold her still. If she won't take the sedative willingly, I will have to inject it. Cole looked at me. I turned my eyes to him in a silent plea to stop this. Is this entirely necessary? He asked, breaking his eye contact with me to look at the doctor. If you want my honest opinion, I believe the mate bond she has with her mate is what is affecting her physically. I can see she is unmarked, but I can smell that she has been mated. The time and distance that has separated her from her mate are beginning to wear on her. Every time he said the word mate, Cole bristled. Right now, her body should rest. Cole nodded and looked back at me. I am sorry, little flower, but this is what will be best for you right now. Don't worry, it won't be long before I can stop all the pain, he said as he grabbed my arms to hold me down. I tried to struggle against his grip, but it was futile. I looked at Cole, panic rising inside my chest, begging him silently to stop this. There was a sharp pain in my arm. I let out a small moan before everything became hazy. Sleep, little flower, Cole said as darkness took me away. The haziness began to recede. I was lying on my back, there was an uncomfortable pinch on my arm. My entire body felt heavy. I tried to shake away the rest of the haze over my brain and open my eyes. I groaned slightly as I tried to move. Shhhh. Don't move, came a voice next to me. I felt a chill up my arm, and darkness swept me away again. This pattern continued twice more. I would start to come out of a drug-induced sleep only to be put right back under. Liam. I bolted up in bed. The sedative had worked and allowed me to fall asleep easily. But the pain had woken me up. Arg, I yelled. It was as if someone was rubbing some white-hot object in circles over my back. "Something is happening to mate," Gavin yelled. "Why would he hurt her? Uncle said he loves her. We need to get to mate." Gavin whimpered in my head. This was hurting him too. The agonizing torture continued for too long. I sat hunched over, my features contorted from the pain. I tried not to yell, but a few groans did get past my lips. My whole body was covered in a layer of sweat. Finally, the pain subsided. Whatever was happening to Aelia had to have stopped. I sat on the bed, trying to catch my breath. I grabbed my phone. It was only about noon, so I had only gotten a few hours of sleep before this started. I had no calls or messages, so the scouts must not have reported back yet. I sighed. I decided I might as well shower and eat something. I needed to be ready to go when they did return so I could get Aelia back. I sat at my desk absent-mindedly twirling a pen and staring off at the walls. It was late, and there had still been no word from the wolves sent to scout the coordinates. I was getting anxious waiting for news. I was fighting the urge to go without waiting for any reports or information. "They are back," Damien linked me. I needed no preamble. I told him about what happened earlier when I woke up. We decided not to tell Lily as we tried to figure out what could have happened. Our most encouraging theory was that Aelia could not feel the pain I felt because she does not feel the bond in the same way I do. "Come to my office right away," I linked back. "Already on our way," he said back. 60 seconds later, Damien stormed right in, followed by 2 of our warriors that were sent to scout the coordinates given to us in the note. Damien stood to the side of my desk while the warriors stood right in front of us. "Carson, Noah, please report," Damien told them. We found the location indicated by the coordinates. We approached slowly, making large circles around the area to get a view from all angles. It appeared to be a pack house, Alpha. Carson reported. "A pack house?" I asked. "Yes, sir," Noah confirmed. Although, very few people came in and out of the building. We did recognize one human coming and going. We remembered him from the inn in the human town. He frequented the inn for lunch and dinner, and we had also picked up his scent near the cottage house in the back. "John," I said quietly. Damien nodded. "Any traps or suspicious behavior?" Damien asked them. "No, sir. It appeared to be a run-of-the-mill pack house home to a very small amount of wolves," Noah said. "Estimated number of inhabitants?" Damien questioned. "We counted only 10 coming in and out, including the human. The rest smelled of wolf," said Carson. "Any other important information?" Damien asked. "No, sir," said Carson. "You are dismissed. I want a full detailed report on my desk in the next hour, then you are relieved," Damien said, dismissing them. They nodded and left the room. There was a silence between us. Both of us were thinking about our next move. I finally broke the silence. "Do you think she is there? We can't be sure that there aren't people inside the house that they did not see coming or going. They only watched the property for about 8 hours today before coming back." I nodded. "Usually, we would be working on days' worth of surveillance information. I don't mean to be rude, but we don't have that luxury right now." "I am well aware. I guess Cole is simply expecting me to show up." Damien nodded. "I think he will want to fight you on his terms where he has the advantage. You coming to him and having your mate gives him the upper hand." I sighed. "Do I have a choice?" "So, what do you want to do?" he countered. "I am going to go get my mate." When do we leave? He asked. Chapter 52. Aelia. The haze was clearing once again. This time I tried not to move so as not to alert anyone that I was waking up. But I felt different this time. As I gained more feeling of my body, I realized that I was sitting in a chair. But it was extremely uncomfortable. My hands were behind my back and tied together with something. My mouth was dry. Fear washed over me as I realized my mouth was gagged with something. I could not help myself as my head snapped up and I looked around trying to figure out what was going on. I was sitting in a chair with my hands tied behind me and my legs tied to the legs of the chair. There was a piece of cloth tied around my mouth and head stopping me from talking. I called out trying to anybody. I was outside in a large field. There was a wooded area maybe 100 yards from where I sat. Calm down, little flower, came Cole's voice from behind me. I felt him coming closer. It won't be long now, Aelia. I am sorry for this, he said. He came around in front of me and knelt down to my eye level. He brushed a few strands of hair out of my face. I felt the prickling across my face as he did. I need you to be a good girl until I am done disposing of unwanted baggage. Tears brimmed my eyes. He was talking about killing Liam. I shook my head trying to plead with him to stop this. Shhhh, it's okay, he cooed. He cupped my face in his hands. Suddenly we heard a thunderous growl from the tree line. My heart raced. Get your hands off my mate. Liam. Damien and I approached the house from the back. My heightened alpha senses told me there were 3 people in the back area. It was a large open expanse beyond the tree line. We had about 25 warriors positioned around the perimeter some 50 or so yards behind us. I knew there was nothing but worry across my features as I had yet to sense Aelia. We approached the tree line and stopped just out of view. I wanted to get a better look at what was going on. There was someone sitting in a chair to the far side of the clearing. My heart dropped as I saw the crimson hair shine in the setting sun. She was not moving and appeared to be asleep with her head falling forward. She is tied to the chair, Damien linked me with a growl. Rage erupted inside of me. You need to get her out as soon as I have them distracted. Don't worry about me, just get her out of here. He looked at me and nodded. If that is mate, why can we not feel her? Shouldn't she be scared? Gavin pondered. She must be drugged. He growled fiercely in my head. Look, I will need your help with this, but you will not be going to our mate. Once this is over, Damien will not hand her over to anyone but me. I told him. Fine, he agreed begrudgingly. I knew he felt some remorse for what he did even if he could not admit it, but I was not going to subject Aelia to him ever again. Panic began to stir in my chest as I watched Aelia begin to wake up. Her head snapped up and moved around frantically trying to understand her surroundings. She did not see us in the trees, but I saw the look in her eyes. I am coming, baby, I whispered to no one. Just as I was about to come out of the trees, a large red-headed guy came up from behind her. Damien immediately looked at me in confusion. He looks like me. He knelt down in front of her chair, whispering to Aelia. I felt the searing pain on my face once again. His touch must be hurting her. Because we are mated, Gavin said. Without any more thought, I let out a thunderous growl and emerged from the trees. With all the alpha authority I could muster, I shouted, "Get your hands off my mate!" I stormed across the field at a quick pace. Damien emerged from the trees behind me, walking some 5 yards or so on my heels. He stood and turned away from Aelia. I could see her struggling behind him, trying to get out of her bindings. "Let her go now," I said. A dangerous smirk graced his feature. He really did look like me, but he wasn't me and that was not his mate. "I am sorry, but that won't be happening. She will be untied when I am done disposing of you," he said in a deep, authoritative voice. I growled. A third person approached from behind Aelia. It was John Henry. "Hello, little Alpha," John said menacingly. Aelia jumped, not knowing someone was behind her. When she realized who it was, she started pulling at the restraints harder, saying something that was muffled by her gag. John ignored her as he stepped up next to the other guy, almost completely blocking my view of my mate. "John, I don't care about your stupid plan to take my pack. It will not work. Let Aelia go and we all leave unharmed," I said to him. The other guy laughed at this. "What is so funny? You think this is that little hunter's plan?" he continued to laugh. I gave him a questioning look. Before I could even comprehend what was happening, the large redhead moved behind John. He instantly snapped his neck. John's body dropped to the floor. I could feel terror as I looked at Aelia. Her eyes were large and her body stiff. She simply stared at John's lifeless body. "Now that he is out of the way, I can kill you myself. I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Cole Blackfur, rightful alpha of the Blood Eclipse Pack," he said, stepping over John's body. I looked at him astonished. "So, you are just as slow as you look. Okay, I will explain. I hired John to help me draw you out. I was never going to attack you within the confines of the pack. He took forever and got distracted by my little flower over here." I growled at his mention of Aelia. "But then, we found out that the mate I was promised, was actually fated to you." I realized, 2 birds 1 stone. I could take my mate and draw you out all in one swoop. "She is not your mate," I yelled. "She was promised to me." "She is mine," he said defensively. "The moon goddess made her for me. She is mine. And look at what you have done to her." I tensed and he sensed that he struck a nerve. "I know everything. I know how you treated her as a child. I know how she was cast out and rejected. I know how you came back deciding she was good enough for you now. I know how you tried to make her love you only to hurt her. You don't know anything. Have I lied about anything yet? Did she not sleep in an attic with no more than a few measly belongings? Did she not work herself almost to death being a maid to the pack house while enduring endless torment from you and your friends? Did you not leave her at the inn, all alone and broken, so you didn't have to tell your family who your mate was?" I stared at him icily. He walks over to stand by Aelia. She looks at me silently, pleading with me. I know she wants me to save her. And now here you stand, watching as I take your mate and soon your pack. Once you are out of the way, Aelia will be free to be with the one she truly loves. "She doesn't love you," I said darkly. "She may not remember now, but she will." I was all she had before her stupid mother stopped told the beta of my father's plan. He reached behind her head and untied the gag around her mouth. "Liam," she started as it fell away from her face. Before she could finish even my name, he grabbed her face and smashed his lips to hers. I could hear her whimpers. "Let her go now," I shouted, feeling Gavin rising to the surface. I could be persuaded to do so. "But I have one condition," he said with a smart smile. "What do you want?" I growled, breathing heavily. Gavin was fighting me for control. He wanted to rip him to shreds right here right now. I wanted Aelia out of harm's way before I killed him. "I will let her go," if you accept my challenge for the claim of Alpha of Blood Eclipse." I looked at him trying to figure out the catch. Something feels off. Why would he just let her go if you simply accept his challenge? Our laws state that he gets to pick the location, but you get to pick the time of the challenge. You could put this off indefinitely to just get Aelia, Damien linked me. I looked at Cole, trying to discern his motives. "I know what you two are talking about. You cannot figure out why I would go to the trouble of taking her just to freely give her back for the promise of a challenge. I am aware that you, by law, choose the time of the challenge. I did promise to let her go. I did not promise, however, that I would not take her back. You see, once you agree, I will release her. I will step back and let her choose what she will do. If she runs to you, she will be allowed to leave here if you so choose to do so. But I will not wait long. If our challenge is not set within 3 days' time, I will come for her and you will never see her again." There was a long moment of silence. I held eyes with Cole, but I could feel Azalea's eyes on me. She was begging me, but for what? Did she want me to accept? Accept the challenge and get mate out of here. "We will fight him in 3 days, we will be ready," Gavin said. I knew he had not taken his attention off of our mate this entire time. We have the obvious advantage here, but I should remind you he is of Alpha bloodline as well. But he doesn't have a mate. 3 days by her side will be enough to strengthen the bond and heighten our power, he explained. "What are you going to do?" Damien said in my head. "Accepting gets her out of here quickly, but do you actually want to let him challenge you? An official challenge could mean less turmoil within the pack should I lose. It also gets her out of here. It gives me a chance to beg for her forgiveness. What if he doesn't let her go? Then we kill him now. And Aelia? She could get hurt, she is defenseless. Tick-tock Alpha. This offer expires," he said, brushing his hand through Azalea's hair. "Liam," she whispered, almost inaudible. "I, Liam Blackfur, Alpha of Blood Eclipse, accept your challenge for the title and claim of Alpha," I said. "Now let her go." He smiled. "Gladly." He untied her wrists and legs. "Go, little flower, we will be together again soon," he said to her. She tried to stand and wobbled on her legs. She was weak. Cole stepped back. I ran forward to grab her. I scooped her up in my arms. "Liam," she whispered as her head lulled. Her eyes closed and her head fell against my shoulder. I stood up with her in my arms. "The challenge will take place here. I look forward to our fight," he said as he turned to walk away. He walked back towards the house opposite the tree line. I looked down at my mate in my arms. "You are safe now. You will never be hurt again," I said. Chapter 53. I ran as fast as I could back through the woods. We had brought a couple vehicles out here that we left only a half-mile from the coordinates. I wanted to be able to get Aelia to safety quickly. When we got to the cars, Damien jumped in the driver's seat. I climbed in the back holding Aelia to me. Her body felt lighter and she was cold. Damien took off, headed back to the pack house. I knew Aelia would object, but I needed to get her to see a doctor and keep her safe. I held her close to me, trying to warm her up and keep her from bouncing around. "Please be okay," I whispered into her hair as I kissed the top of head gently. She stirred momentarily. I pulled her away from chest enough so I could look at her face. "Aelia," I whispered to her. "Liam," she croaked quietly. Her eyes opened slightly only to flutter closed once more. Damien looked at me through the rear-view mirror. "We need to get to the clinic now," I said seriously. I never took my eyes off of her. As soon as we arrived at the clinic, I was jumping out of the car. My uncle was waiting outside ready to see Aelia. We rushed inside and his staff led us to a large room. I gently laid Aelia on the bed. Her breathing had slowed and became shallow. They immediately began hooking her up to machines and examining her. "Liam, you need to wait outside," my uncle commanded. "I won't let her out of my sight. Damien, take him out now. I can't work on her with an emotional alpha breathing down my neck," he said resolutely. Damien grabbed my arm, pulling me from the room. The door closed and I lost sight of my mate. A tear rolled down my cheek. "She will be okay. Your uncle is the best and he won't let anything happen," Damien tried to reassure me. "What if we were too late?" I asked him. "We weren't. She was awake when we got there. I am sure she just needs some rest or something." I began to pace back and forth across the floor. Some time later, Lily met us outside the room. We could not hear inside the room, so there was not much to update her on. She stood by Damien, waiting patiently, and watching me nervously. After another 15 minutes or so, Lily whispered something to Damien and left us. I was too wrapped up in my own thoughts to notice or care. "We need to know what is happening with mate," Gavin said. "I know. Don't you think I would go in there if I didn't think they would throw me right back out?" "Mate needs us," he badgered. "Don't even start. This is all your fault," I shot back at him. He growled at me but fought back no more. I continued to pace the floor outside the door. A few minutes later the door opened, and my uncle emerged. "How is she?" I asked before he could say anything. He put his hands up indicating that I needed to calm down. "Patience, nephew," he started. "She is stable now. She is severely dehydrated and does not appear to have eaten for several days now. She has a few different sedatives in her bloodstream. I can only guess that they sedated her and kept her asleep for a while now. Those medicines will need more time to work their way from her system." "So, she is asleep?" I asked. "Yes, she is sleeping for now. Her body did not seem to process the sedatives they gave her. We are giving her fluids and vitamins until she is awake. Then we can try to put some food into her which will also help." "When will she wake up?" "That I do not know. She could wake up in an hour or a week. She is already small and fairly weak. The emotional trauma before her abduction combined with the resulting trauma from the abduction can have any number of effects that we aren't aware of right now." "She was so cold," I whispered. He placed his hand on my shoulder. "Right now, I have no reason to believe she will not be okay. We just need to give her time. When the nurses are down settling her, you can go in. Maybe your presence will help her wake up." I nodded at him. "Thank you," I said. "Of course." With that he motioned for Damien to follow him. They left me standing in front of her room. I did not have to wait long as the nurses came out telling me I could go in to see her. They cautioned me to be careful with her monitors. I entered the room. Azalea's small frame lay on the bed, now in a hospital gown. She had IVs connected to her as well as some cords that must be monitoring different things. There was an armchair near the bed. I walked over to her. Her face looked sad in her sleep. Bending down, I placed a small kiss on her forehead. "I am right here, baby. I am not going anywhere," I whispered. I pulled the chair closer to the bed. I held her small, cold hand in my large one, rubbing my thumb across her knuckles in a soothing motion. I sat there watching her for a while. I did not notice Damien and Lily come in. Damien came up behind me and put his hand on my shoulder to get my attention. "Yet," I said, still not taking my eyes off Aelia. "I talked to your uncle. I told him more about what happened when we went to get her. He thinks she will be out for at least a few more hours. Why don't you come with me for a bit and let Lily stay with Aelia?" he said, concern lacing his voice. "I want to be here," I said. I was not going to leave her side until she woke up. "It'll be okay, Liam. Just go shower and freshen up. I will stay with her and hold her hand." "She won't wake up alone," Lily said gently. "Shower and a sandwich. We will come straight back," Damien said. I kept my eyes on Aelia. How could I leave her when I just got her back? "You won't be any good to her when she wakes up if we don't get you cleaned up and some food in you. You haven't really eaten much for days now. Half-hour tops, come on," he continued to encourage. I sighed. "Okay, 30 minutes. Lily, please link me immediately if she begins to wake up. I need to be here." Lily smiled and nodded. I stood up from the chair, my back aching from the crouched position I was in. I bent over, leaving another kiss on Azalea's forehead. "I will be right back, baby," I whispered to her. Lily sat down and grasped Azalea's hand as I inched away. Before exiting the room, I took one last look at my sleeping mate. "Moon goddess, please let her wake up and forgive me." "Aelia," there was a soft beeping around me. My body felt odd. I tried to remember what happened before I fell asleep. My eyes did not want to open as I struggled to gain back consciousness. I felt something warm in my hand. It was pleasant. I managed to turn my head to the side and open my eyes a little. Trying to focus on the view before me, I found a disheveled head of dark hair lying down face first on the bed. There was a hand grasping mine and a small tube coming from my arm. I let out a weak moan. The head immediately shot up. A pair of bright blue eyes laced with concern were peering into my own. "Aelia," he whispered as if he could not believe it was actually me. "WWWHH, I was having trouble forming words. My throat was really dry. His free hand came up to my face, brushing stray hair out of my eyes. There was warmth under his touch. I closed my eyes, savoring the feeling. "Baby, please, open your eyes. Come back to me," he pleaded in the softest voice. I opened my eyes again. His face looked so sad. Water," I managed to breathe out. Some relief washed over his features. He let go of my hand and part me instantly felt sad at the loss of his touch. He was back a moment later with a glass of water and straw. He held the cup up so I could drink through the straw. I sipped the cool water slowly. It felt nice on my dry throat. Once I had emptied most of the cup, I let the straw go and Liam set the cup down. His hand cupped my face as his eyes looked at me like I was going to disappear any moment. "You're awake," he breathed. I nodded my head. I could see the tiredness and stress across his features. He looked like he had not slept or eaten a proper meal in a while. "Where?" I started quietly. "You're in the pack clinic. Do you remember what happened, baby?" he asked gently. "Pack clinic?" My eyes widened as I tried to remember. A monitor near me started to beat rapidly. Liam looked up, then looked back at me. I looked around wildly. Why am I in the pack clinic? Why would he bring me here? "Aelia, baby, you need to calm down. Okay? I had to bring you here. You passed out, they drugged you. I was so worried. I am so sorry," he rubbed his thumbs across my cheeks trying to calm me down. Warmth spread from his touch, and after a moment I was able to breathe normally. The beeping around me slowed down. Cole and John, they took me, I said, trying to piece together what happened before I blacked out. Liam nodded. I strained to remember what happened. It all came back to me at once. Liam, you accepted. He's going to kill you and take me, I started sobbing. SHHH, Liam cooed. He scooped me and cradled me to him as he sat on the bed. No, I won't let him do that. He will never have you. He rocked us back and forth trying to calm me. I let myself bury my face in his neck, inhaling his scent. Calm began to take over my body. The door to the room opened and Liam's uncle came in. Our little Luna is awake. I see Liam has wasted no time in reuniting with his mate. How are you feeling, Aelia? He said. I raised my head and gave Dr. Ronald a small smile. I'm okay, I said. Think you can unhand her for a few minutes so I can check on her? Dr. Ron said to Liam with raised eyebrows. Liam blushed slightly. He stood up and set me back down on the bed gently. As soon as he stepped away, I instantly missed his arms around me. You have been asleep for a while now, said Dr. Ron, turning his attention to me. What is the last thing you remember? Well, Cole had me in a large field and Liam came. Cole challenged him for the alpha title and Liam accepted. Then Cole just let me go, I said. Good, he said as he began to look me over. After about 10 minutes and a few more questions, he seemed to be satisfied that I was okay. We will keep you here a bit longer for observation. I will have a nurse bring in some food in a bit. You have lost some weight and we should get you eating again. It will be the second biggest help to your recovery, he said with a smile. He went to leave the room. Wait, what is the first? I asked before he could exit the room. He looked back at me, then to Liam. Maybe you two should talk, he said, and left us alone once again. Liam came back over to my bedside as Dr. Ron left. Liam, what is going on? I asked. He looked at me with sad eyes. This has to do with our mating, doesn't it? I asked quietly. He nodded his head, still saying nothing. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I could feel the tears coming to the surface. I had not even begun to get through what happened before all of this, and now here we sit. Aelia, I can never tell you how sorry I am. I should have never let it happen. I should have been honest with you when you asked what was going on. I was trying to protect you and I hurt you in the process. I fought Gavin with every ounce of my strength and I still wasn't strong enough, he apologized quietly. I could not look him in the eye. I stared down at my hands in my lap, trying to hold back the tears. I could feel his eyes on me, watching me carefully for a reaction. I know what happened is completely unforgivable and I would not ask for your forgiveness. I just hope that you can give me a chance to try and make up for it all, he said. He reached over to me and gently grasped my face in his hand. He tilted my head up so I was looking into his eyes. Aelia, you are my entire world, the air that I need to breathe. Imagining my life without you is te. I will spend the rest of my life trying to make up for my mistake if you will give me a chance to do so. I closed my eyes and took a shuddering breath. Liam, the entire time Cole had me, a huge part of me only wished for you to come rescue me. But I cannot lie and tell you that part of me didn't want you to come. I looked away from his beautiful face as tears began silently falling. It seemed like a cruel joke from the moon goddess that you of all people would be my mate. After you rejected me and left me at the inn, I thought maybe finally the joke would be over. I was done suffering, I had paid for my parents' mistakes. I thought I could have a small, quiet, insignificant life and not be a burden to anyone. Then you came back and despite all my effort against it, you made me fall in love with you. I think the mate bond helped, it made me feel less scared around you and made me seek your comfort. But I fell in love with you and then, I trailed off for a minute. I could not say the words. I rubbed my wrists gently. I took another deep breath and continued. I want to hate you, but I just can't. And I hate myself for still wanting you. I realized it when Cole touched me, I will not ever be able to be away from you. I need you too, Liam. I looked up into his gorgeous face. I could see some relief taking over his features. Aelia, I am so sorry. You cannot even begin to believe how sorry I am, he said quietly. I know, I said. I think I can feel it. His eyes shot up at that. What? I just didn't think you could feel the bond. I thought you were only feeling a small pull, not that you could feel the connection, he said surprised. Liam, what did your uncle mean earlier? What would be the most important part to my recovery? I asked hesitantly. I was not entirely sure I was ready for his answer. He looked at me nervously. Well, he thinks that you would be able to recover faster if our bond were stronger. What does that mean? He thinks that I should mark you. Chapter 54 Liam, I think I can feel it. My eyes shot up in surprise at her words. What? She asked, reading my expression. I just didn't think you could feel the bond. I thought you were only feeling a small pull, not that you could feel the connection, I explained. Human mates were not known to feel the wolf's feelings as much as the opposite. I guess we really were in some unknown territory. Liam, what did your uncle mean earlier? What would be the most important part to my recovery? She said. I could tell by her hesitation she was not sure about my answer. I knew I had to be honest with her, but it didn't make me any less nervous. Well, he thinks that you would be able to recover faster if our bond were stronger. I was struggling on how to phrase this gently. What does that mean? I guess I should just be direct. He thinks that I should mark you. I held my breath waiting for her response. After an agonizing minute she simply said, "Oh." Looking at her I could not tell what was going through her mind. An awkward silence hung between us. I sat down in the chair next to the bed and rubbed my hands over my face. Aelia played with her fingers in her lap. What happens if I never let you? She asked quietly. I looked up. Her eyes were locked on me. Well, if you mean will you still recover, of course. It's just once the mate bond is completed with the marking, a mated couple can be a significant aid to each other in healing and other things, I explained. She thought for a minute. And besides my current situation, what would happen? I swallowed. I did not want to guilt her into this after everything. My uncle's reasoning made sense, but it did not change the situation. Well, we could face some adverse side effects and your heat could return. Oh, she said again. I needed to know what was going through her head. Before I could figure out how to ask her, Lily and Damien came in the room. You're awake. Aelia, we were so worried. Lily yelled, rushing Aelia. Calm down, she is recovering. I yelled at her. Aelia giggled. My heart eased a little hearing that sound. It felt like it had been ages since I heard it. Lily and Aelia hugged each other. Damien stood next to me. Glad you're feeling better, Aelia, Damien said to her. She smiled at him. Thank you, she said, nodding. As if it was not crowded enough in here, a nurse appeared in the doorway. She was holding a tray of food. "Oh, Alpha, Beta," she said, bowing her head. "I just brought Miss Simmons some dinner. I will take that." "Thank you," said Lily, grabbing the tray from her hands. She brought it to Aelia and started fussing over her like a mother hen. I could tell by the look on Azalea's face that she was letting it happen to make Lily feel better. "We need to talk," Damien linked me. I looked at him. "It's about Cole." I looked to Aelia and Lily. Lily was talking her ear off now. "Lily is with her. You got to step outside the room for a few minutes. She isn't going anywhere." "Okay, let's make this quick." We left the girls in the room to eat and chat. Damien closed the door behind us. "So, what is so pressing?" "I'll handle that mutt when I am ready," I said, irritated. "It has been 36 hours since you accepted the challenge," Damien said. "I am aware. Right now, my concern is my mate," I said. "Liam, if you aren't prepared for this." "No. I will end him," I said. Damien sighed. "We need to send your response before he tries to take her back. We have no reason to doubt that he will come after her." "Damien, what aren't you telling me?" He gave me a strange look. "Your father knows. He knows Aelia is here and he knows about the challenge." "Liam," came my father's voice from behind me. "Aelia." Lily was finding anything and everything insignificant to talk to me about. She was clearly trying to distract me. She finally stopped fussing long enough to let me eat by myself, although I did not have much of an appetite. I finally had to stop her charade. "Lily, what are you trying to distract me from?" She stopped and looked at me. She sighed. "I am sorry. Damien asked me to keep you occupied for a few minutes while he got Liam out of here. If they needed to talk, I would have been okay." "No, it's not that," she said nervously. I grabbed her hand. "Please tell me. Please do not lie to me," I pleaded. She sighed. "Alpha Robert knows about the challenge, Cole, and that you are here." I could feel the blood draining from my face. If Liam's father knew about everything, then he also knew that Liam and I were mates. Surely, this time he would force Liam to reject me and cast me out of the pack. "Don't worry, Aelia, Liam will not let anything happen. He is going to take care of Cole and then you two can figure things out," Lily tried to console me. There was shouting outside the room. Lily and I looked towards the door. The door slammed open and Liam rushed in. I could see Damien and Beta Declan outside holding back a very angry Alpha Robert before the door swung closed. Liam was almost instantly by my side. He looked at Lily. "We need to go, now," he said urgently. "Liam, what is going on?" I asked, worried. Him and Lily began unhooking the monitors from me. "I am taking you out of here, Aelia. My father disagrees with how I am currently handling the situation," he said. "I don't understand," I said. He looked at me with pleading eyes. "I can't lose you. Please just let me get you out of here." I nodded my head at him. Lily handed him a coat. He nodded thanks at her before helping me put it on. It was huge and smelled like Liam, so I could only assume it was his. Liam gently picked me up, holding me to him. "Hide your face against me, okay?" he said softly to me. I did as he asked, burying my face into his chest and grasping his shirt. I let his scent ease the tension I was now feeling. "We're going out the back, give me 2 minutes then open the door." "Damien knows the plan, all right," he said to Lily. Liam moved quickly, exiting the room through another door. I kept my face hidden in his chest as he walked. I knew we exited the clinic when I felt the chilly air against my legs that weren't covered by his coat. I could feel Liam's unease. I wanted to know what was going on and where we were going, but I knew it was best to wait for Liam to get us away from his father. In no time, we were entering another building and Liam was climbing a flight of stairs. Something felt oddly familiar about wherever we were. A door closed and I felt Liam sit down with me still in his arms. "Okay, we're safe for now," he said, shifting so I could lift my head. I looked up into his blue eyes. They were clouded with worry and a part of me wanted to fix that for him. "What is going on?" I asked quietly. He sighed. "My father has an idea on how to handle the current situation with Cole and I do not agree." "What does he want?" Liam closed his eyes. I could tell he was struggling with all this and it made my heart ache. I was the cause of so many problems for him. I reached my hand up and placed it on his cheek. "I will never put you in danger, Aelia." Not knowingly. "I would give up my title if it meant I could guarantee your safety," he said softly, not opening his eyes. "I know." "Liam, what does your dad want to do with me?" He was quiet for a minute. Finally, he said, "My father wants to use you as a means to rid us of Cole. He wants me to allow Cole's time limit to run down so he will come and take you back again. His plan is to have a witch curse you so that when he takes you, you both die." I gasped in shock. I had no words. How could someone hate another so much as to use them like that? Liam grabbed my face in his hands. "Aelia, look at me. He will not take you from me. I don't know why he is so against us as mates, but I will not let him do this. Damien and his father are trying to get him under control, so we don't have to arrest him. But if he continues this, I will do so. Aelia, you are my mate and rightful Luna to this pack. His mere suggestion at something that costs you your life is a crime." I nodded my head. "Liam, how does he know?" I asked, finding my voice. "I am sorry, but I told him a while ago." "Oh." I sat quiet for a moment. I was not sure how to feel about everything and I had only been awake for an hour or so. "So, what about Cole?" Liam sighed. I accepted his challenge. "So, I will set the time of our confrontation." I grabbed his shirt and laid my head on his chest. "What's wrong?" he said, stroking my hair. I sniffled. "I haven't forgiven you, but I can't stand the thought of losing you," I whispered. "This is all my fault." He wrapped his arms around me tightly, holding me even closer to him. "No, it's not. And it will not be like this forever. I promise." We sat there like that for a while. "Liam." I held her close to me. I hated that she felt this was her fault. This was happening to her not because of her. The longer I held her, the better I began to feel. Her presence was giving me energy that I had not felt since she left me at the lake house. "Why don't we get ready for bed?" I asked her softly. She nodded her head. I realized she was still wearing my coat and hospital gown. "Would you like to change?" She nodded again. I stood up and placed her back down on the bed. I went over to my closet to grab something for her to wear. I would ask Lily to get me something for her later. "Where are we?" she asked, now looking around the room. I came out of the closet and rubbed my hand nervously on the back of my neck. "We're in my bedroom," I said. I was hoping to put this off. I walked over to her with one of my t-shirts. "Wait, does that mean," she said, her eyes getting a little wide. I kneeled down in front of her. "Yes, I had to bring you to the pack house. I am so sorry. No one other than Damien and Lily knows you are here though. She swallowed hard and nodded. I knew this was making her more nervous, which could not be good for her right now. There was an urgent knock on the door. Liam, we need you now, came Lily's voice urgently on the other side. The rest of the audiobooks will be uploaded in the next episode. Join us on Patreon to listen to more unlimited audiobooks.